News breaking this hour. Alabama Governor Kay Ivey signing this bill that effectively bans abortion statewide. It is now law. As we were just discussing with Senator Booker, Roe v. Wade under fire here. This fight could go right to the Supreme Court, which has new members appointed by Donald Trump. There are these protests that we're seeing for what would now be this total ban on abortion, no exceptions for rape or incest unless the courts intercede. This law is also controversial because it would put doctors in jail for up to 99 years, depending on how it's enforced. Alabama Republicans have said their motivation is to overturn Roe v. Wade.
What this bill is designed to do is to go to the Supreme Court and challenge that particular precedence.
My goal with this bill, and I think all of our goal, is to have Roe versus Wade turned over.
The governor says the sponsors of the bill believe it is time once again for the U.S. Supreme Court to revisit this matter and that this may bring about the best opportunity for this to occur. That's a new statement we got just this hour. And this is something a lot of people are noticing. We wanted to show you the 25 male senators, all 25 votes cast in favor from who you see up on your screen. That's who's making this set of decisions. And one of those senators got into it with a colleague who happened to be female, challenging him over a provision in this bill that states that a woman could end her pregnancy as long as she doesn't know that she is pregnant.
And I'm not trained medically, so I don't know all the proper medical terminology. And there's some period of time before you can know that a woman is pregnant.
How do you define is known?
How do I define it?
It's in the bill.
Well, if you don't know, then you're not known to be pregnant.
I guess that's a typical male answer. You don't know
I hope that don't
what
happen.
you don't know because you've never been pregnant. You can't get pregnant. You've never been pregnant. You don't know what it's like to be pregnant.
That was a debate. What I can tell you as of this hour is this bill is now law, state law. Today, several Democratic candidates for president speaking out.
It's nothing short of an attack on women's basic human rights and civil rights.
Women's health care is under attack, and we will not stand for it.
What they did in Alabama, what they did in Georgia is unconstitutional.
They're trying to overturn Roe versus Wade. That's wrong, and we will fight back.
I mean, do you think they'll succeed
We will
in
fight
this?
back.
I'm now joined tonight for our special coverage by Alabama State Senator Vivian Figures, who was one of the 6 individuals and one of 2 women who voted against this bill last night. Elise Hogue, who is president of NARAL Pro-Choice America, as well as reporter Laura Bassett. Thanks to each of you for being a part of this discussion. I suppose we should start with what does this mean for Alabama today? What just changed for individuals there? To Vivian.
Well, okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be on your show. Let me say, first of all, that I reached out to Governor Ivey today. I called her office, left her a message saying that I wanted her to put an executive amendment on that bill. She could have done that, at least the amendment dealing with the exceptions for rape and incest. She did not call me back. I put it in writing and had it hand-delivered to her office. She did receive that message, and she received that letter before she signed that bill. So she, a woman, could have put that amendment on that bill at least. That bill is full of ambiguity. There are so many questions in that bill in terms of what does it really mean for doctors who are OBGYNs in Alabama who don't do abortions, but who may do a procedure that would be considered getting rid of a fetus or whatever. So it's going to be a lot of problems down the road.
And when you look at this, what happens now? If no court intervenes, then what happens to any individual in Alabama who might want to have this procedure?
Well, first of all, the bill does not go into effect until 6 months from today. So what will happen then, how they will enforce it, I do not know.
Elise, same question.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing these bills, bans sweep the country, and I think they all have a singular goal, Ari, and that is to gut Roe and criminalize abortion. What I find really ironic and the familiar feeling as a woman of being gaslighted is not 6 months ago we were being told we were hysterical for suggesting Roe was vulnerable during the Kavanaugh nomination, and yet you have the lieutenant governor of Alabama actually saying it's because of the justices that Trump has put on the court that they are actually trying to overturn Roe and criminalize abortion nationwide. It will certainly be sued. It will have to go to the Supreme Court. But right now, Ari, the most important thing is that they have awakened a nest of energy and activity unlike anything we have ever seen before. My phone is going nuts. People wanting to know how to get involved. They understand that while the pointy end of the stick today is Alabama, that this is all of us. We are all in this together. And so we're organizing because there are actually more people that believe in reproductive freedom and justice in this country than there are the people like the 25 male senators in Alabama that voted in favor of controlling women, punishing us, and putting our health in danger. And we're going to organize our folks. We actually just launched StopTheBans.org, where we'll be unfolding organizing plans, nationally distributed actions over the next week. So please go to StopTheBans.org and sign up to get more information.
I think we're going. Let us not forget. Well,
Vivian,
let us not forget.
Vivian, let me do this.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, let me bring in Laura and then go back to you. I'm conducting here. So first, Laura, and then back to Vivian.
It's just amazing to me. I think we're going back to the 60s. I mean, we used to be in this place, in this country, where abortion was illegal, and women did go over the border to Mexico. They did have unsafe procedures. And I've reported in Kenya, and I've reported in Ireland, and I've reported all around the world in places where abortion is illegal, even in cases of rape and incest. I talked to a 16-year-old rape survivor in Kenya who had to have an unsafe abortion, and she nearly died, and her father had to sell all of his cows in order to pay for her emergency medical procedure, and then she couldn't finish high school. So this is happening already around the world, and we are now going back. Some states are trying to go back to a place where it was just a lot more dangerous for women. They call themselves the pro-life movement, but what these policies do is they literally kill women. And so I think that Alabama is just the first. Louisiana is moving a bill today. Georgia, Ohio. We're going to start to see a wave of these. Republicans are emboldened under Trump and under a Kavanaugh Supreme Court. And I think that the election is going to be a referendum on how people really feel about that.
Vivian?
Yes, I just wanted to say, let us not forget, these are not just men who are doing this to women. There are women who are involved in this as well. It was a woman who sponsored that bill, Terry Collins, out of the House of Representatives in Alabama. It was the other 4 to 5 Republican women in the House who signed on as co-sponsors. And this is not a Democratic or Republican thing. I had people calling me from all over who were Democrats, Republicans, black, white, men, and women. But I agree with the other panelists that this has just opened up a firestorm of energy for women and men who want to get involved and see that a change needs to be made, and electing people into these offices who have more of a heart to listen to women and to fight for our bodies not being a part of the laws. Because there's no law on the book that says a man is mandated to do anything with his body. And it shouldn't be for a woman either.
And you put that very forthrightly. You're also putting it in a way that reflects a lot of the understanding of what many people have said looks like an unfair approach, even before you get to the fact that it would appear, what's happening in your state would appear to violate, obviously, the current precedent that does protect this choice by women. At least with all of that in context, let's look at where this all came from in the current presidency, because it was Donald Trump who didn't reflect that level of understanding and made a very famous set of statements that even he walked back when he said, oh, well, not only would you want to criminalize this and make it illegal, but you would want to criminalize it to the degree that women would be punished. Take a look.
The answer is that There has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
A fine?
Of
imprisonment for a young woman who finds herself pregnant?
It will have to be determined.
What about the guy that gets her pregnant? Is he responsible under the law for these abortions? Or is he not responsible for an abortion decision?
It hasn't. Different feelings, different people.
Yeah.
I would say no.
Yeah.
Elise, and just for viewers, before I go to your analysis, I just want to remind everyone that remarkable statement we'll put on the screen. Donald Trump had to walk away from it during the campaign. He said, oh, well, I didn't even mean that. But what do you think it means to see Alabama teeing this up for the Supreme Court with Trump's nominees now judges?
Yeah. I think Trump was, I always say out of the mouth of babes, right? He didn't come from the anti-choice movement, so he wasn't versed in their signal talking and where they know they've stepped over the line. So he may walked it back in words, but he certainly hasn't walked it back in deeds. And that spirit with which he brought about punishing women, we're seeing lived out on the national stage now with jail time being put in place in several of these bans. And one of the things that I find really sinister about what we're seeing in the anti-choice movement in the last several years, epitomized by Trump, is that we've moved from an anti-choice movement that sort of views women as victims, which was already horrible enough, especially in the ends that they were using, but to women as perpetrators. And that gives you an insight into not what is just Trump's mentality, but what is driving these people, which is that women are to be, we're suspicious and that we do not deserve the right to be in control of our own bodies and our own lives. And the only fortunate thing is they're in the minority. It's a radical minority. They're about to learn just how in the minority they are. And part of the reason that they're going for broke with bills like Georgia and Alabama is because they know they're on the wrong side of politics on this. And we will show them that really clearly in the coming days and the coming weeks, but all the way through 2020.
Well, and Laura, speak to that because Elise is talking about the public views. And as Vivian just mentioned, there are certainly views in both parties. There's certainly women who we just heard are part of fighting for this in Alabama, although they're the minority.
Right.
Look at when you break down the polling very generally, when you ask folks, should this be legal in some circumstances? Mm-hmm. When you put it that way, Gallup, nonpartisan, it's overwhelming. It's not a 50-50 issue there. It's 80-20. What does that tell you about Elise's point about the strategy here, which is, if anything, running headlong into that public opinion and seeking refuge in potentially a Supreme Court stalked by Donald Trump?
Right. I mean, we forget that Republicans have tried this, right? Like they started doing these personhood laws, proposing them in 2012. Mississippi rejected one. Colorado voters rejected one. It was decided that these were too extreme. The governor of Ohio vetoed a similar heartbeat bill to the one that's passing now, deciding it was too extreme. And then voters overwhelmingly reelected Barack Obama with a massive gender gap, the biggest one that had ever happened. And I think that was in part a big reaction to the big wave of abortion restrictions we were seeing in the states after the Tea Party took over. And so things changed a little bit in 2016, but I think now we're sort of going back to this aggressive anti-abortion stance on the part of Republicans. People don't want to see all-out bans on abortion, particularly without exceptions for rape and incest. It's like a tiny fraction of the country that would support something like this. So Republicans going all in on this, even the sponsor of the Alabama bill said, this isn't even what I want for Alabama. We're just trying to make this as extreme as possible to challenge Roe. I don't think that's a good election strategy, and I think it is going to bite them next year.
Right, and as you say, if there is one point of continuity here, it is everyone in Alabama acknowledging effectively what was just passed, what was just signed into law tonight, is not currently lawful under the Supreme Court. I mean, that alone, whenever on any issue you have that as the stated goal, you have to take, obviously, a very close look. I want to thank State Senator Vivian Figures for walking us through this, given your knowledge of the issue there on the ground. Elise Hogue and Laura Bassett, thanks to each of you. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.